Every- Hey everyone, it's Crystal. This is my response to this week's discussion forum, The Power of Education. So I do believe that Frederick Douglass understood that education was the path to power. I believe that he was right. I believe that a lot of persons who were able to learn how to read, they were empowered and enlightened and saw the world in a different view. Um, the slave masters, owners, they tried to keep slaves ignorant and uneducated so that they didn't know any better. So the moment you know how to read, you know how to write, you know how to research, you become enlightened, you become to see the world in a different light. And I think that's what happened for Frederick Douglass as he grew into himself. He realized what was wrong. He realized that he wanted to speak out, and he was right to be educated or to have knowledge. Not necessarily formal education, but to have knowledge is definitely power. Um, yes, I believe there's still a racial disparity um, in education. I can give you a personal example of when I immigrated to the United States. When I immigrated to the United States, I came to a predominantly white town, and the school system was different than that I had in Jamaica. But I went to a prep school in Jamaica, so my upbringing and my education in Jamaica was actually really good. And when I came over here, it was quite different. You had more affluent students, you had extracurricular activities, you had students playing instruments, and things of that nature. And I experienced that for about 4 years from elementary to all of middle school. And I experienced going to French restaurants as my French class field trip. I experienced, diversity in culinary arts, in learning about European countries, things of that nature. We were engulfed in it. And then when I came to high school in an inner city, even though I was in a magnet program, it was very different. We had probably outdated textbooks. Even if we had textbooks, we were not even allowed to bring the textbooks home because it was class textbooks. They didn't have enough just in case someone misplaced, lost, or anything like that, or textbooks were in the schools. We didn't really have access to like computers directly in the classroom where I did when I was in a more affluent town. We didn't really go on field trips. It wasn't about culture. There wasn't much extracurricular activities for enrichment. Um, there were sports extracurricular activities, but it wasn't like enriching. It wasn't like well-rounded, I guess I could say. So I saw the difference. I saw the difference in the education. I felt like when I went there, I felt like my class was like 2 years behind what my capabilities were. So when I initially went there, I was in the regular school, and within a month, they had to move me to the magnet program because I was a little bit more advanced than a lot of the students for the grade level, and I had to be placed in advanced placement classes. So that was really, really an eye opener to see the difference in just school systems in the same state, in the state of Connecticut, in the same state, but it was just totally different how the school systems were ran and the access that was afforded to me in both the school systems. One thing that I really, really took from the reading was this is a quote. It says, "Without sound education, people have less knowledge of the world around them. They are less likely to vote or to pay attention to politics. It leaves them vulnerable to manipulation by those who represent narrow interests and promote fear." I think that speaks volumes with the economic climate of what's going on in not necessarily right now, but what has been going on. So I feel like people who are less privileged, condemned to poverty. There's such an opportunity gap for persons who are more affluent. There's private tutoring, there's private opportunities, there's different type of experiences. You can even bring it down to different um, food and nutrition and what vitamins you get. It's everything is different when you talk about racial disparity, not just the education. It's how much sleep does one get? Do they play extra? Do they exercise their extracurricular activities, or is it that the television is raising a child? The parents aren't there. These are latchkey kids, or in more affluent towns, there might be a nanny. The mom might be a stay-at-home mom. There's just such a difference in what occurs. And I think it all really, really stems from education based. Racial disparities began from, Jim Crow laws, banning slaves to read. It deprived people of color of education and resources required to prosper, which is why Brown versus Board of Education was so important. It places children on different trajectories. That was something that really stuck out, which made sense to me. How might that impact the future? One thing that I like to emphasize is that generational poverty is real. Okay. Generational poverty is your parents are poor, you're poor, your kids will be poor. And I think if people are educated, knowledgeable, they will be in better positions. And it has to start somewhere from someone. Unemployment rates is how this impacts the future. Homelessness, limited opportunities, and increased division between social classes. Because traditionally, if you're not educated, I'm not necessarily talking about higher education. If you're not educated, you don't get higher paying jobs. You're in menial jobs, low lying jobs. You're a worker bee. You're not going to be the chief unless you literally work yourself up. And when you work yourself up, that comes with knowledge. The person who works at McDonald's, who started off cleaning the place, if they're willing to learn and gain the knowledge and read the manuals, they can move up. They can move up to team lead. They can move up to manager. So it's about knowledge. Knowledge is power. And Frederick Douglass knew that. So I think a lot of people who are in poverty, or, don't have the opportunity, the racial disparity, I think they're just definitely hopeless. They don't know or see how they can move to make their situation better. Why I decided to go to college to get my degree. This is my second degree. I always knew that, you know, I I was always an academic, I guess. I liked to read a lot all the time. I belonged to like a book club in high school. I like to learn. I like to know things. I don't like to be in conversations where I'm ignorant in a topic, and I'm not talking about being an expert in anything besides my field. As a nurse, I'd like to be an expert in that. But I like to have general knowledge. I like to be aware and have understanding. So I'm that Googler who will look stuff up. Back then when it was encyclopedias, I would be like, Mom, we gotta buy an encyclopedia. I need to, know this. I need to be able to look this up. So for me right now, I am an LPN, and this will be my second bachelor's degree. I believe that this would augment my family's trajectory. Personally, I'm thinking about my children and the type of education that I would like for them, the trajectory that I would like for them to be on, the experiences that I want for them. It's funny because this afternoon, I was talking to my son. He was asking me like random questions, and I was talking about university, and I said, yeah, you could do student exchange. You could go study abroad. And he's like, study abroad, what's that? And I'm like, yeah, I had a roommate in college, and she was from England, and you can go study abroad. And my roommate, actually, one of my other roommates, she actually went to study abroad for a semester in Australia, and it was great. And he was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, yeah, you get to go and you see the culture, you go to school at the same time, and you explore. And he was like, "That's amazing." And I said, "Yeah, it's amazing, but it's definitely not cheap. So if that's what you want to do, you better get the grades because if I'm going to be paying for that, like, I don't mind giving you guys the experiences that you need to succeed. I don't mind giving you the opportunities to be in certain boardrooms, and things of that nature, but I also need you to understand that you need to put in the work." So I definitely align with Frederick Douglass that, you need to be empowered, you need to have education, you need to have knowledge, and you need to fight for what you believe in. It's not just having the education because lazy people have education. So you have to have the education, have the knowledge, have the conviction to go after what it is that you want and go and grab it, go attain it. The sky's the limit, the world is there. Nothing that you obtain is going to be easy half the time. So I think he was definitely right. I do believe there's a racial disparity that continues today. And the fact that it's 2025 and we're still dealing with this, it just shows that the money flows where it flows, and there's reasons why the money flows where it flows. But people need to wake up and they need to become enlightened at the same time, and they need to take the bull by the horn and go get the resources that they need, and they need to fight for what it is that they need necessary. And for those who don't, I mean, I don't know if it's just hopelessness or they just don't want to, there's everybody has their different walks in life, and my walk in life is definitely aligning with those of persons like Frederick Douglass or enlightened peoples. I'm going to go after what it is that I want, what I need. I believe that I am supposed to have all the opportunities, all the experiences that I desire, because that's just what I want, and I'm going to go after it. So I believe in education 100%, and this is probably not my last um, collegiate or academic um, goal. I will probably go and get my master's and probably my DNP. Not quite certain, but I'm a work in progress. Have a great evening, everyone.